Okay, Teresa.
Welcome to this edition of AARP Massachusetts Fraud Talk Tuesdays. We're here the second Tuesday of each month from 12 to 12:30, where we discuss a different scam and how you can protect yourself and your family from becoming a victim. My name is Teresa Chaklos, and our guest today is Dennis Hohengasser. We are both volunteers with the AARP Massachusetts Speakers Bureau. Today's topic is scams that target veterans. You may have joined us today with questions already in mind, and if you have, you can go ahead and put them in the Q&A now. But if questions come up during the presentation, feel free to go ahead and put them in the Q&A, and we'll try to get to them all. This session is being recorded, and you will receive a copy of this recording so that you can share it with family and friends. And at the end of the presentation, we will share a page with links to a number of resources. So, Dennis, before we begin, let's show a poll question to see who is on this call. Here's the question, and check all that apply. Whether you're currently on active duty, whether you have a family member on active duty, whether you yourself are a veteran.
Actually, we're going to skip that because the wrong poll came up, and I'm not sure why.
Oh yeah, okay. I see that.
I didn't practice that beforehand.
Okay.
So
I'm sure that at least one or more have applied to a lot of us. So. Yeah. That's fine. So Dennis, can you talk to us today about how big a problem scams that target veterans has become?
Sure. Despite their service to our country, United States military veterans, active duty service members, and their families are targeted at a higher rate than civilians. 40% more likely to, they're 40% more likely to lose money than civilians, their civilian counterparts. AARP runs a program called Operation Protect Veterans. And in the most recent survey back in 2021, they also found that 80% of veterans have encountered scams that specifically target those who are currently or former in the military. That's 80%. AARP is working to empower consumers, all consumers as well as veterans, to spot and avoid scams and to provide support and guidance to veterans and their families when fraud happens. I had mentioned the this thing called the I can't find it, the Operation Protect Veterans, and we're going to talk about that toward the end with one of the slides we're going to share and some of the resources that are available through that site.
Well, so what are some of the scams that are targeting veterans?
Well, the same scams that are targeting everybody else. Things like identity theft, phishing, where they throw out a large net to try to gather as much information either by texts or emails, imposter scams, and investment scams and loan deception. The main scams where military communities have lost money include lump sum payments for VA benefits, something called pension poaching, and we'll talk a little bit about that. They try to convince veterans that they can get reduced taxes that they owe. They try to get military veterans to update their military records, sometimes having to pay for them, and that's all free. You don't need to pay, and the VA is not going to contact you to update your records. Things like drug assistance programs and donation programs to veterans organizations or veterans charities. And the last one is paying for educational services of one sort or another.
So why are veterans and their families targeted?
Well, it goes back to the old thing, follow the money. Scammers follow the money. Active duty service members get a steady paycheck from Uncle Sam, while veterans can receive regular benefit payments. AARP has developed this thing called a Veterans Handbook, and we're going to show that toward the end, and has the latest scams targeting military families. It provides tips to spot for folks to spot scams, and resources to use to protect military families. And we'll share the link at the end.
So can you talk a little bit more about the most common scams that are reported?
Yeah, one of the ones that people lose most money on is something called pension poaching. It's a financial scam targeting veterans perpetrated by shady advisors who promise to help former service members grow their retirement funds or obtain extra benefits from the VA. The sad fact is that nearly half of the former and active duty service members who have been approached by pension poachers erroneously sign over VA benefits. Again, your best source for any information is always going back to the VA before making any decision. If someone is in a financially stressful situation, this pension poaching can sound like a real great solution, but it isn't. Pension poaching starts with either a cold call to veterans or sending an email of some sort or a text message, or even showing up at senior centers or assisted living. They offer to help military and ex-military apply for a program called Aid and Assistance, otherwise known as A&A. And A&A can boost pension benefits to help veterans with extra caregiving payments. It's a legitimate program that boosts pensions and helps older veterans pay for long-term care if they're bedridden, if they're living in a nursing home, or to help with daily living activities such as bathing, eating, and those types of things. But only veterans with limited earnings and assets are eligible for A&A. It is not available to everybody. Pension poachers try to convince you that it is possible to get around these rules by restructuring your finances so that you appear to be needy enough to qualify. For instance, they might recommend setting up a trust to transfer your retirement assets to a family member, but that could get you disqualified from the VA, which scrutinizes assets that you've shifted in the past 3 years before you file for an A&A claim. Even if you manage to secure A&A, you might disqualify yourself from Medicaid because they look back 5 years and not just 3 years. Or a sham advisor might urge you to use your retirement savings to buy an annuity. Those are life insurance policy things. Those are not regular savings accounts. But these insurance products aren't right for everybody. Before moving ahead with anything, you need to talk to a trusted friend, a relative, or someone at the VA.
Wow. Well, what other ways do scammers try to manipulate the military community?
Well, scammers also try to gain access to benefits the government provides to those who serve through things called a secret government program. But what they ask you to do is to pay a fee up front or to provide personal information. Or they'll try to charge veterans for access to their service records, including something, things like your DD-214 or other government forms. Access to these documents is free from the VA. They also try to sell older veterans on plans to boost their pension. Remember, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably a scam.
Exactly. So I've heard of something called affinity fraud. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, affinity fraud is where the crooks pose as veterans or organizations to gain your access into your trust. They do this in several ways. One is something called bogus military charities, where they try to hit up former service members for donations. And we'll talk about some of the things you can check out on a charity before you donate to them. It's not a military one, but I get calls all the time from, quote, a police association looking for donations. And one of my first questions is, all the money you take in, how much of it actually goes to support the cause of the police association, and how much do you keep? That usually winds up with them hanging up on me. Other types of scams that are going on in this whole affinity fraud thing, These fishers, people who throwing out lots of emails and texts, they impersonating a VA official asking for personal information such as social security numbers, saying that they needed to update the veterans records. That's not how the VA works. That's not, the VA will not call you to do that. These crooks pretend to be from TRICARE, the healthcare program for military and military personnel and retirees and their families. They try to offer you other types of benefits. It's another ploy of stealing personal or financial information because they're going to ask you all kinds of questions to make sure that you are, quote, eligible. Again, the VA is your best source of information.
Wow.
Fake classified ads for rental properties offer discounts only to veterans or active duty members. These people, the people they target are instructed to wire money for a security deposit and what turns out to be a non-existent property. Remember that if anyone asks you to wire money, send prepaid debit cards, use things like Zelle or Venmo, those are pretty good signs that there's a scam involved here. You really need to do your research. And again, don't do anything before you check with somebody, a trusted friend or a relative. Scammers sometimes or posing as soon-to-be deployment service members offer special deals for veterans on cars, electronics, and other products. Again, asking for payment by wire or one of these other methods. And once you paid, the seller disappear and the goods never arrive.
And that's tricky that they're using Venmo and Zelle because a lot of people, use those and it seems to work for them. But that's, I guess they just find all kind of ways.
Well,
what are
those two, Venmo and Zelle, and there's a couple other apps out there. Those are primarily designed to send money between friends and relatives, people that you know. And the problem with with wire transfers and these other kind of things, it's like sending cash. Once it's gone, and trying to get it back is almost impossible.
Yeah. I mean, to me, the word wire funds that's a red flag. And then Zelle, I know Venmo and Zelle, you do have a time period where you can pull the money back. But you have to be quick. So yeah. Well, what are some steps that we can do to try to avoid these types of scams?
Well, with any type of scam, the first thing is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Remember that scammers try to get you into a heightened emotional state to make your decision, what they call getting you under the ether, so that you're not thinking logically as to why this might be a scam. You're thinking emotionally. And if they're looking at, say, this pension poaching scam, again, if you're in a financially stressful situation, you're thinking this might be the right thing for me. This will get me out of my financial situation. So you're thinking excitement here, you're getting under the ether, and you're not thinking why this might be a scam. So you want to never make a decision in a heightened emotional state. Always ask a trusted friend or relative to review the thing, especially if it's a financial situation or providing personal information before you make any move.
Yeah, because sometimes they also try to make you feel rushed, and that's probably not.
With all scams, that's one of the red flags. One of the red flags is urgency. You must do it now because this is not going to last. This is a one-time offer. So they use that you got to do it now. The other one is, again, sending the money, and usually don't tell anyone. Let's do this quick. Don't tell anyone about it. This might be a secret program just for you. But the secrecy, urgency, and sending money via wire or one of those transfers, and God forbid, cash.
Well, what are some other warning signs that something might be a scam?
Well, if it's a financial advisor that tells you that you're entitled to additional benefits simply because you're a veteran, it's probably a scam. If an advisor guarantees, they guarantee that you're going to get an enhanced VA pension, it's probably a scam, because no one can guarantee anything. If they ask you for money up front in order to receive extra benefits, that is definitely a scam. Other warning signs: you get an unsolicited call saying that they're from the VA requesting personal information, like, again, social security number or some of your other VA ID information. The VA is, again, not going to call for personal data by phone, text, or email. My spouse is a veteran and gets lots of written stuff from the VA, but not the calls, not text messages, not emails. If you receive an unsolicited call or online message or text that offers you to increase your benefits or give you access to some secret or little unknown government program, it's probably a scam. If you get high pressure fundraising calls from veterans charities because they say you have previously supported or interacted with this, they're trusting that you may not remember that you probably did give a donation to some veteran, and they're just again fishing, throwing out these huge nets, trying to get as many people as they can under their control. We're going to talk about something called Charity Navigator at the end, a way of checking to see if a charity is a viable one. And you can, if you see a job ad recruiting veterans for, quote, previously undisclosed federal government postings, that's probably a scam. Again, I cannot tell you how important it is, this under the ether. They want to get you into a heightened emotional state. Maybe you're retired, maybe you're a veteran looking to pick up some part-time work, and you see this ad and you're thinking, hey, this is it looks like a description that would fit my skills. It's near me. I want to go out and be careful, because you're getting into a heightened emotional state before you make a decision. And sometimes these ads call this number, and if you call this number, we are so excited to have you on board. Let's get the application done right over the phone now. So I need your name, your date of birth, your social security number so we can get you paid. And all of a sudden you've given away a whole bunch of personal information. You don't want to do that.
Wow. Well, I know we're getting close to time, so can you finish up with a few do's and don'ts that everybody should consider? Yeah,
when you're dealing with a financial transaction or investment, do check something called, and I have a link in the slide that we're going to do at the end, called the VA's searchable database, where you can actually search for an accredited attorney, a claims agent, a veteran service organization representative, to find out if they are legit. You can run background checks on any professional. Do carefully read all contracts and other paperwork if you're looking and getting into some kind of a financial arrangement. Again, and check with a trusted friend. Discuss any proposed pension or investments, again, with a trusted friend. Beware of advisors who offer free food. Go for the free food and then leave. You don't need to stay for the talk. And do apply directly to the VA if you think you're entitled to the aid and assistance, A&A benefits. Some of the don'ts: don't trust any organization or individual that contacts you out of the blue. We all like to think that we're special, especially people who have served in the military. But we're not so special that people are going to be beating a path to our door to give us all kinds of things. Don't hesitate to say no if an advisor pressures you into acting fast. Remember that urgency. And don't be swayed by a name. They use all kinds of names that have the word veteran or military in it. Just because they do doesn't mean they are. And don't settle for vague or evasive answers. Always remember, don't make purchases or financial decisions in that heightened emotional state. And the whole thing's about do it now, don't tell anybody, and send money. Those are all the big warning signs.
So any resources that I know you mentioned, we have a slide or we're going to send some resources, but can you share any of those resources now with us?
Funny you should ask. Here's some right here. Let me go dig a slideshow from, oops, slideshow from beginning. Yeah, here's the first thing. You can get these slides, and these blue sections are linked, so you can click on those and it'll bring you right to this. This veterans resource that the AARP has put together that I mentioned earlier on. If you click on this program, you'll be able to sign up for watchdog alerts. And there's also this thing called a Watchdog Alert Handbook, Veterans Edition, that specifically describes scams targeting veterans and what you can do to keep yourself safe. They talk about the top military veterans and service-related scams and prevention techniques, provide the Fraud Watch Network helpline is on there to report a suspected scam. And they love to hear from folks to find out, because the only way they know about this is somebody tells them about these scams that are out there. So it's, if you have encountered a scam, call this number, report it. It's on the website, and let them know. If you've been victimized, they want to know also. They can help you work through the process of getting through this. Are you going to get your money back? Probably not, but they're going to help you with the emotional support and how do you stay safe going forward. There's information on this in the program called Operation Protect Veterans. Oops. And you can register for an free online support group to help people deal with, and this is for anybody, not just the military, but anybody, on how to overcome the emotional trauma that you've experienced if you have been victimized by a scam. I've sat in a couple of these sessions, and they're extremely beneficial, and they offer a great deal of support, and they're all free. Here's some other links to find out more information on benefits on pensions from the VA. Again, I mentioned this thing called a searchable database to find an accredited representative to help you with benefit issues. There's 3 different links here called Wise Giving, Charity Navigator, and Charity Watch. And those will, if you go to those sites, you can put in the name of the charity. It'll tell you if it's a viable charity, how much money they take in, how much money they actually send to support their initiative, and how much goes to administrative costs. There's a link to the Fraud Watch Network itself that has tons and tons of resources out there relative to all kinds of fraud, and the virtual link to register for the virtual support. So do we have any questions out here? So we'll send this, you don't need to write any of this stuff down because these are all links. We'll send the slides out to you right after the presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. I can find my mouse. There.
So far, no questions.
If anyone does have a question, at the very bottom, you can put it into either the chat or the Q&A at the bottom, relative to any of the topics that we talked about during today's presentation. But I encourage you, if you check out when you get the slides, check out the Fraud Watch Network, because it has plenty of information. But the one specifically, the very first slide, talks about all things veterans in terms of fraud and being protected. Again, call the Fraud Watch helpline if you think you have been approached by a scam. That's how they keep track of it, and how they report out and write new articles for the Fraud Watch Network on protecting folks in all kinds of areas. Oops, we have a Q&A.
It's a comment.
Oh,
Love the session.
oh, well, we thank you for the comment.
Yeah, great. All the way from Orlando.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Well, Dennis, thank you so much for this valuable information.
Oops, we have another question.
Oh, great. Oh, great.
Oh, another great.
Great job.
Well, thank you for the, we're here to support everybody in terms of fighting fraud and being safe and engaged consumers. So we don't,
And I think we've both been there ourselves.
we have.
Or too close for comfort anyway, and so we know what it feels like to either get that call or have something crazy happen to your computer while you're trying to just do your emails or whatever. So that it's definitely we do this for ourselves as well as for everybody else.
Yeah.
But we do this every month on Tuesday, the second Tuesday of the month. So next month will be June 13th. And the topic will be vacation and travel scams as we head into the summer season. So thank everybody, and we want to thank you all for joining us today, and hopefully we gave you some good tips and some good information, and you will also get those website links when Dennis sends out the recording, and you'll get the slides as well that have all those links.
Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Take care.